Hi, guys, and welcome to the next session. And let's get down to business. And as we have discussed on the previous lecture, that we've set the layout, and now we want to really use all the learnings that we've already got in terms of storytelling, in terms of designing, in terms of creating a structure of our presentation before we actually start making it, right? And remember that we are actually improving a presentation which I had given you in the resource section, in which in the topic was basically the top five investment books to read for absolute beginners, right? And that is the presentation that we want to actually improve. And in the process, of course, learn is much more sensible to apply as you go. And in the process, it becomes much easier to learn, right? So let's get started. And first of all, as with any presentation or anything that you're making, I spoke about the WWH rule, right? Which is who, what, and how. Okay, and that's going to be should be imbibed in you whenever you start with any presentation, whether it's in a PowerPoint presentation, whether you are doing it in Tableau, whether you're doing it in Python, or for that matter, even in Excel. If you're doing any such data presentation, you have to remember the WWH, right? So first of all, let's just start writing on who the audience is in terms of this case study that we're trying to solve, right? So if we're talking about the top five investment books, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open the bad presentation that we were talking about, and let's just stream through the content just to identify on what exactly this book is trying to achieve and which kind of an audience is this trying to target. Okay, so if you see, these are very, very simple, easy to understand books. And mostly if I look at the title, right, these are for investment careers and for beginners. And there are about five books which are leveling up as we are going into the sixth book, right? And there are details of the books available out here, right? So there are images which are there, then there are explanation of what these book majorly covers is also mentioned out here, right? And also there is a level of progression in terms of the understanding of the content, right? So we get a fair idea that this is finally for a absolute beginner starting in investments. Okay, so I have already written my storytelling aspect, and you are free to define yours. But most likely, the audience is going to be, beginner students, or you could say laymen in investments, right? So that would be majorly my audience, and hence I had to be very careful on what the content I put, right? Because if I'm using too nuanced content in my presentation, probably that is not going to appeal to most of them, because they're just gonna zone out, because they will not understand your language that you use, right? Absolutely short, crisp, and it should do probably about 3 to 4 slides should be more than enough to actually cover the entire content, right? That is the reason why I said that this presentation is not good, because first of all of this content can be covered in 4 slides because there are too much image, uh, very less information, right? And too much of chaos and clutter in this presentation. And that's what we want to improve, right? So we've defined the who. Now let's define what. Okay. So first, of course, it's pretty straightforward that we want to give the list of the book. Okay. Also, we want to show progression, which is pretty clear because Rich Dad Poor Dad book is a very, very simplified version of, just then talking about savings and talking about, how important saving is. In Cash Flow Quadrant talks about various sources of income. And, you don't really have to be an expert in every domain to understand this, because you could just look at the summary. And in fact, one of the important aspects of being a good presenter is the fact that you should be able to just take gist of whatever is written or whatever the topic is about, in terms of its summary, and you should be able to form an opinion on what level this lies in or what context it carries, right? So if you see here, the progression is what we want to show in terms of the leveling of the books. We also want to show some credibility of the various authors, so that it doesn't sound as if we are just talking about six books. We also want to categorize these books on what these books cover, instead of if you look at this presentation out here, it's mostly, we really can't understand whether the cash flow quadrant book, what does it really talk about, right? I mean, it's not very clear out here in the presentation, right? If I look at Rich Dad Poor Dad, I'll have to really get insight to understand what exactly it talks about, right? So that's what we want to improve. Now, how? So how do we want to do it? So we want to use maybe smart ads, and that is where we learn about smart ads. Okay, we want to use some images, so we also learn how to add images. Okay, then we also want to stick around with a theme in terms of color. Okay, so maybe we will stick around with a yellow, gray, blue theme, and it all depends upon just related colors. Okay, it's very simple. Nowadays you can just go to Google and just find out a color theme, and you will be able to just put the foundation color, and you'll be able to get a lot of color with color codes. So it's pretty simple, you don't really have to be a designer for that. Anyways, but you want to keep smart ads, images, theme, and we want to keep text very minimal. Okay, so that's how, at the moment, as we begin this presentation creation, is what we can think about, right? So I will leave you with this thought at the moment of trying to create your own WWH, for maybe you're working on the case that I have given you, or maybe you want to take up any other presentations which are not made correctly and come up with this list. And in the next lesson, we start with the master slide first.